Unit 6, Expressions, Equations, and Inequalities, and we are on Lesson 2, the distributive property, also known as the multiplication property. The essential question for today's lesson is, what operation does the distributive property use? So by the end of this, you ought to be able to see what operation. There's only 4 choices: multiplying, dividing, adding, or subtracting. So let's start. Distributive property, what is it? It's also known as the multiplication property. All terms within the grouping symbols are multiplied by the number on the outside. So here to begin looking into the distributive property, we have area models. And an area model uses boxes like this. Okay, you might be familiar with what area is from elementary school. And so there's a 2 on the outside of the grouping symbol here, so it goes over here. And then whatever's inside the grouping sign goes up at the top. We're going to keep the parentheses around it. And 2 times 3 is 6. All right, and now we're going to go to the next one. The 2 on the front of the grouping sign goes in the front, and then the parentheses go here. 3 plus 4. Now, this circle right here is for the operation sign, either addings or subtractings, and we put them inside the circle. We put the 3 here and the 4 here. Oh, actually, I made a mistake there. So 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 times 4 is 8. And you can see that 6 plus 8 is 14. Okay, going on to the next one, the 2 is out in front, so here it goes. And then we put a 3 plus 4 minus 5. And so we'll put a 3, or we'll put the plus sign in here, and then the minus sign right here. And then we will multiply the areas. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. And 2 times 5 is 10. Then we'll add these together. 6 plus 8 is 14, and 14 minus 10 is 4. Go on to the next one. We have a negative 2 right here. Then we'll do a negative 3 minus a 4. Put a minus sign right there. And negative 2 times negative 3, and negatives times negatives gives you positives, 6. And then negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Now in this one, we're going to use additive inverse because this is subtracting a negative. So add the opposite. And you can see that the answer is 14. And then the last one, there's no number in the front, but the identity property of multiplication says that you can multiply anything by the number 1, and it will be just fine. So put a 1 right there. So put negative 1 out in the front. Move this minus sign down to that circle. And negative 8 times a positive, negative 1 times a positive 8 is a negative 8. And a negative 1 times this positive 7 is a negative 7. We'll use additive inverse again. Additive inverse. And negative 8 plus 7 is negative 1. All right, before we go on, let's look over in the column over here. We have a little discovery thing. We have gems, that's grouping signs, exponents, multiplication, division, and subtraction and addition from left to right. And the distributive property. So today we're learning about the distributive property, and since it is a math property, we can know that it's true. Now, in gems, we're supposed to do everything inside the grouping sign first. So this one would be 3 and 4 is all set. This one would be 3 and 3 plus 1, that's what we're doing, the grouping sign is 4. And right here we have 3, and 0 plus 4 is also 4. And here we have 3, and 5 minus 1 is 4. And you can see what's happening here. They are all 3 times 4. 5 plus a negative 1 is also 4. And then -2 minus a -6, we're going to do additive inverse. And -2 and 6 is 4. So every single one, when you do gems, is going to end up being 3 times 4. But let's go ahead and do distributive property first instead of doing gems. Does it work? 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 1 is 3. And 9 plus 3 is 12, exactly what 3 times 4 is. Let's try it again. 3 times 0 is 0, and 3 times 4 is 12. And 0 plus 12 is 12. Then we have 3 times 5 is 15, and 3 times 1 is 3. Bring down that minus sign. And 15 minus 3 is 12. The next one is 3 times 5 is 15, and 3 times -1 is -3. We bring down that plus sign, and 15 plus a -3 is also 12. This next one we'll do a 3 times a -2, which is -6, and then 3 times a +6, which is 18. We'll bring down this plus sign, and -6 plus 18 is also 12. So you can see it doesn't matter that we're doing gems or we're doing distributed property. Both ways work. So the distributed property can supersede doing what's inside the parentheses as long as you're doing it correct. All right, now you just got to see me making these arches across. So we're going to be using those on this one instead of the area models. So now with the additive inverse property, when subtracting, signs are present. Okay, so here this is just 2 times 3x, which is going to give you 6x's. This is 2 times 3x, and 2 times 4. 2 times 3x is 6x, and 2 times 4 is 8. Bring down that plus sign. Now remember, you cannot combine those because those are not like terms. Then we're going to move on here, and we do see a subtraction sign. So we're going to use additive inverse to that. And then we're going to 2x times 3, 2x times 4, and 2x times -5. So 2x times 3 is 6x, and 2x times 4 is going to be 8x, and 2x times -5 is going to be -10x. Now those are all like terms, and so you can combine them. 6x and 8x is 14x, and 14x plus -10x is actually 4x's left over. This next one, we see a subtraction sign right here. So we're going to do additive inverse. The other signs are actually negative signs. So we're going to do -2 times -3x is going to give us a positive 6x. And a negative times a negative is going to give us a positive 8. Bring down the plus sign. And the last one, again, we see the 1 is missing. So we'll put a 1 right here. And we're going to go down to the subtraction sign and additive inverse that. And -1 times 8x is -8x. And -1 times -7 is actually a positive 7. Bring down the plus sign. Okay, so we have two models here. We have the area model up on top with the boxes and the circles for the signs, or some might call this rainbows or arches, so that you're multiplying everything on the number on the outside to everything inside the grouping sign on the inside. All right, well, what did we learn? We learned that distributed works with both addition inside and subtraction. A times B is AB, and A times C is AC. It's a plus sign, so we have a plus sign here. We also learned that with subtraction signs we could do the additive inverse, but we didn't have to. A times B is AB, and A times C is AC, and that's a minus sign, so you put the minus sign right there. All right, so that is the distributive property. Now let's go down here to the sticks and blocks. Now you can see past the sticks and blocks, we'll be getting into the next side of the notes. So let's make sure we really know what's happening here. Okay, in A, we have these sticks, these vertical sticks, and then we have these blocks. Now there's no signs inside here, so we're going to assume they are positive sticks and blocks. Now if you'd like to put positive signs in here, you may. Positive, 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 all the way across. And you can see that there are two groups. All right? So since there are two groups, we can say that there are two groups. Well, what's in one of those groups? Well, what's in one of the group is what goes inside the parentheses. So we have three of these tall sticks. So we're going to say there are three X's because we don't know how long those are. Now the blocks are worth 1 unit. So there are 2 units, so we're going to plus 2. Let's find out if this works using the distributive property. 2 times 3x is 6x's. And look at that, there are 6 sticks in the picture. And then 2 times 2 is 4, bring down the plus sign. And there are 4 single units inside the picture. So it did work, we did it correctly. And now we're going to go on to the next one. This one on B has these sticks. There's no indicator what they are, so we can assume they are positives. But the units have a negative sign in them, so those are negative. So how many of these groupings do we have? Well, if we circle this one, there is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So our outside number is going to be a 4. And our inside number is going to be what one of these blocks is. So we have 2 of these, so that's 2 x's. And we have 2 negative signs. So you can either write -2 or adding the 2 negative signs. Either way. So let's go ahead and distribute. 4 times 2x is 8x. And 4 times -2 is -8. Now is that what we see up here? Well, there are 8 sticks and there are 8 negative units. So that worked out good. Now it's the last one. And now we have negative sticks and we have negative units. You can see that there are 3 groups. 1, 2, and 3. They are identical. So we're going to say there are 3 of them. Well, what's in one of them? There are negative 4 x's, that's long sticks, plus there are 3 negatives in each. Let's try the distributive property. 3 times negative 4x is negative 12x, and 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Is that the correct answer? There are 9 negative units and there are 12 negative sticks. So that makes sense. All right, let's see if you got drawing skills. Try and draw D, just like up above. You know that there's how many groups? There are 3 groups. And what's in one of the groups? This number right here. So let's try it together. So there are 3 groups. That means there's 1 stick and 2 sticks. Those are both positives. And then there's 2 units. 2 units. That's one group. Now how many groups do we need? We need 3 of those. So another stick, 2 units. And finally, okay, it looks like we have 6 units and 6 sticks. Let's find out if we do the distributive property if that's what we get. 3 times 2n is 6n, and 3 times 2 is 6, and that is true. All right, now we have a minus sign, but let's use the additive inverse to know what it is. Additive inverse. We're dealing with 4 negative units. Now, how many groups are there? There are 2 of them. And in those 2 groups, we have 2 sticks, and we have 4 negative blocks or units. Let's put negative signs inside there. And we have 2 of these groups, so we have another set. All right, let's find out if we drew it correctly. 2 times 2x is 4x. That looks right. And 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. And that looks right. There are 4 or 8 negative units. All right, for the final one, how many groups are there? There are 4 groups. And inside the groups, we have negative 3c minus 1. Let's take this minus sign and do the additive inverse to make it easier. Okay, so we have 3 sticks that are negative. So we got 4 of these. So we're going to start way over here. The negative stick, negative, and negative. And then we have 1 negative unit. All right, now that's 1 group inside the parentheses, but we need 4 of these. Those are all negative. These are all negative. And then the last of the 4 groups. And these are all negative. All right, so according to distributive property, 4 times negative 3x was going to give us negative 12. Oh, sorry, not xc's. And there are 12 sticks, and they're all negatives. And then 4 times negative 1 is going to give us negative 4. We'll bring down that plus sign. And there are exactly 4 negative units. Okay, so we've learned a ton about distributive property. And now we're going to practice it. On this page, there are some things that you didn't quite see on the first page, but let's use our knowledge of what we did. Now, do we see any number in the front here? There is no numbers there. But do we see a number on the back that's against the grouping sign with no operational sign? I'm going to put an arrow there. I'm going to write down no operation sign. And when you see no sign against a grouping sign, it means to multiply. So this is going to be 8f plus 3. That's a group. And how many groups do we have? We have 7 of them. Could you imagine drawing that? 8f times 7 is 56f. And 3 times 7 is 21. Now you could have gone backwards and said 7 times 8f is 56f, and 7 times 3 is 21. So it doesn't matter if you go backwards or forwards on that one. We're just showing you that the number could be on the back side rather than the front side. All right, going on to the next one. I see a minus sign right there, so I like to go additive inverse. And this is a negative 5 times 4 and 5/10 v. So I like to use a calculator on this one. And I won't type in the negative because I know a negative times a positive is a negative answer. So I'll just type in my calculator, 5 times 4 and 5/10. And I get 22 and 5/10 v. Then I'll go negative 5 times negative 6. And I won't type in negatives into my calculator, but I will type in 5 times 6. Actually, it's an easy math fact, and that's going to be 30. And my sign I'm going to put in the middle of it is plus. Okay, moving on to I. We have a negative sign out in front of the group, and we know from our notes that there is a 1 right here. So negative 1 times negative 4y, that's a negative times a negative, gives me a positive 4y. And then a negative 1 times a positive 9 is going to give me a negative 9. This is a plus sign, so I put a plus sign here. And I do not go negative 1 times this because This minus 11y is not inside the grouping signs. So negative 1 is not multiplying it. So what can I do with this minus sign down here? I can do the additive inverse. All right, so I'm going to bring that down, plus negative 11y. And now I can see from my previous lesson that I can combine like terms because I have all addition signs. I'll put my y terms together. 4 plus negative 11, a t-chart for some of you is going to be a good tool. Bring the 4 across and subtract, and I'm on the negative side. It's negative 7y plus negative 9. All right, now we're going to go down to j. As fractions are showing up, we have a missing number right here, but we know it is a 1 because 1 times anything is itself. So negative times a negative fraction, actually kind of easy. Negative times a negative is positive, and 1 times anything is itself, so that's 2/3 f. And negative times this 7, let's hold up this minus sign. I can do the additive inverse to it, and that makes it easier. A negative times a negative 7 is a positive 7, and that is done. We'll go to the next one here. You might think we're going to do 3 times all this, but we're not, because there is this sign right here. That's a minus sign. So what's in front, or what's behind the minus sign, but in front of this grouping sign you cannot see? It's a 1 again. And if you did the additive inverse, you can see that's a negative 1. So a negative 1 times a positive 5/10 b is going to give you negative 5/10 b. You can use a calculator for that. A negative 1 times a negative 4 is going to give you a positive 4. Bring down our brackets. Actually, we're not bringing down the brackets because we just did it. Okay? We bring down this 3 plus right here, the 3 plus. All right? Now we're going to combine like terms, and you can see constants. 3 plus 4. How can we add out of order? Well, we have all addition signs, so we can commute them. So 3 plus 4 is 7. And the answer is negative 5/10 b plus 7. All right. Now we're going to put everything together here. On this one, we have negative 5 times negative 3y. A negative times a negative is a positive 15y. And negative 5 times positive 9 is a negative 45. We'll bring down the plus sign right here. Minus 15y plus negative 5. There's no more distributive property to be done, but we do have this subtraction sign right in the center. Additive inverse. And now we have all addition signs, and so now we can add out of order. Let's go ahead and put this 15y together with the negative 15y. Well, that would give you 0y, and those are gone. So then what's left over? 2 constants, negative 45 and negative 5. Well, negative 45 and negative 5 together is negative 50. Cool ink. And the last one for the we-dos, you've been learning along the way here, it says, Trevor claims the expression negative 5 times c minus 6 is equivalent, is the exact same as negative 5 minus 6. Make a statement to identify and correct the error in Trevor's work. So if you went here and you left that minus sign because you saw a minus sign in Trevor's work answer, so we're going to leave this here, but we're going to do distributive property over the top of subtraction, which also works. Negative 5c, negative 5 times c is actually negative 5c. And negative 5 times 6 is actually negative 30. We'll bring down this subtraction sign right here in the center, and that's minusing a negative, and you know that you can do the additive inverse here, additive inverse, and this is equal to negative 5c plus 30. So what happened to Trevor's work? Well, he distributed the negative 5 to the c. He did a good job. He got negative 5c, but he did not distribute the negative 5 to the 6. He stopped, and he just brought the minus 6 down. So that was his error. He didn't do distributive property to all of the terms inside the grouping symbol. So that's what we'll write. We'll simply say he missed a term inside grouping symbols. Not a lot of room. All right, we have finally made it to the you do section. Okay, so there are a bunch of them here. You're just going to do one at a time, and we'll come back and check each time to make sure you're doing them right. So pause the video and try in now. There's the answer. Did you do it right? I'm sure you did. If not, go back and look at the notes. All right, pause the video and try O now. Here's your answer. Now there's another way to write this, and we haven't shown that to you, but you can write it as negative 9x minus 9. And why do you think that that works with a minus 9? Because if you were to do additive inverse, look, they look identical. So in black, underneath this red right here, you can also have that answer of negative 9x minus 9. Pause the video and try P now. Okay, I have two answers for you. I have the red one, 14x plus negative 21, or like we just mentioned on O, instead of having plus a negative, you could have minus a positive, and it means the same. How do you know it means the same? Because if you were to do additive inverse, it looks identical. So the black ink underneath this red ink is also correct. Pause the video and try Q. All right, we're back. I don't have the answer for you, but I want to show you how to set it up. This is a 2 back here. There's no sign in between the grouping sign and the 2, so it means to multiply. And 2 times 3/5 a and 2 times 3/4. This is fractions, so we write 3/5 a times 2, make 2 into a fraction. That's 2 over 1. And with multiplication, you multiply straight across. 3 times 2 is 6. 5 times 1 is 5. A 6/5 a plus 3 times 2 is 6. And 4 times 1 is 4. Now, you can simplify 6/4, or you could have remembered something from elementary school, cross reduction. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 4 twice, which would have given you 6/5 a plus 3 over 2. Pause the video and try R now. Okay, I have a partial problem done. I thought there's a 3 next to this grouping symbol with no indicator what it is, so I distributed the 3 times the negative 6x and the 3 times the 3/10. I got negative 18x plus 9/10. All right, so now I can combine like terms, and I can only do that when all the signs are addition. So here they are. This is negative 1 and 8/10 plus positive 9/10. And that's going to give me negative 9/10 plus negative 18x. Another way to write this is put the negative 18 in the front, and then put the negative 9/10 in the back. All right, now for S. S is a tricky one, so make sure you use what you have learned. Go carefully. Pause the video now. Okay, we'll try this again. We have little recording problems, so we're going to start off with S right here. So we know that we can add a 1 here, and we can add a 1 here, and that makes it easier. That's the identity property of multiplication. And then we can look for subtraction signs. We have one right in the center. So we're going to do additive inverse. Now we'll do the distributive property. So 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. And 1 times 2 tenths c is 2 tenths c. We'll move over here to the next one. Negative 1 times negative 2c is a negative times a negative, which gives you a positive 2c. And negative 1 times 2 gives you a negative 2. Now all of our grouping signs are gone, and we have addition signs all the way across. Addition, addition, and addition. So now we can use the commutative property and move things around. So we're going to put our c's together. 2 tenths c plus 2c is 2.2c. Plus, we'll move on to our constants. Negative 2 plus negative 2 is negative 4. So our answer is 2 and 2 tenths c plus negative 4. All right, let's look at t. Heather rewrote the expression. Let's move this thing off of here. There we go. Heather rewrote the expression 5 tenths times 3 plus 1 and 2 tenths u minus 3 and 2 tenths. Her steps are shown at left. So these are her steps right here. Step 1 for Heather, step 2, step 3, step 4. So it looks like step 1, she just rewrote the problem, ready to go. There was no issues there. But then she's going to move on to step 2. So she went from 5 tenths and 3 to 3 and 5 tenths. Then it looks like she was trying to do the distributive property, and to here, then to here. So 5 tenths times 1 and 2 tenths u, and 5 tenths times 3 and 2 tenths. But we can see that with a calculator, 5 tenths times 3 is 1 and 5 tenths, not 3 and 5 tenths. So what did she do? It looks like on the first one right here, she added these together instead of multiply them. So that's going to be 3 and 5 tenths. So that's, she added this one. This next one right here, 5 tenths, looks like she added again, 1 and 2 tenths. 5 tenths plus 1 and 2 tenths is, 5 tenths is 1 and 7 tenths. Again, she added, and maybe she added the last one. 5 tenths plus 3 and 2 tenths is, oh, there's a subtraction sign here. So she subtracted 5 tenths from 3 and 2 tenths. So Heather is really going the wrong direction, as we can see. So her big mistake was right here. After that, she went ahead and moved things around. She moved this over here, which is fine. She moved this over here, which is fine. And this one down here. That's good, but remember, the main issue is right here. She did not do the distributive property with multiplication. She tried to do it with addition. So let's go over and see what she should have done. What she should have done was multiplied everything in here by 5 tenths. We go down to the subtraction sign. It's very short. We're going to do additive inverse to it. And now we're going to go this, times this, and times this. So the first one, we already know. We did it over here. It was 1 and 5 tenths. The next one, we don't know. So we'll take our calculator out. We're going to multiply this. That's going to be 5 plus 6. We'll move it over 1, 2, 1, 2. So this is going to be 6 tenths. U. And then our last one, 5 tenths times negative 3 and 2 tenths. So we know it's going to be a negative answer. That's 2 and 5 tenths is 10. That's 15 plus 6 is 16. We're going to move the decimal point twice. So it's 1 and 6 tenths. Now we're going to combine like terms. We see two constants here, and we have all addition, so we can move things around. So we are going to add 1 and 5/10 together with negative 1 and 6/10. So we'll use a t-chart for that. Things are getting a bit messy, but we're getting to the answer here. 1 and 5/10 is positive. 1 and 6/10 is negative. We move the smaller one across, which is this one, and we subtract. That's going to be 1/10. So the answer is 6/10 u plus negative 1/10. All right, well, that's the lesson. Now we're going to go down into the test readiness check. And these are a bunch of you-dos. Now, these are not going to be just easy ones. This is going to make your brains work for a bit. So let's take a look at the first one. I'll kind of guide you through what you're going to be doing. The letter U, simplify. That's going to be the distributive property. Okay, so that covered this one. I think you can do that one fairly well. V, however, it says what is the value of H so that the expression 4 times the quantity of G plus 7 is equivalent, catch that word, equivalent to G plus H times 4. And I want you to notice the 4 is in the front and now the 4 is in the back. And then I want you to look very carefully at this to come up with what H could be. Then you're going to move on to W, that's distribute. Watch out for this right here. You know to add a 1 right there. And then we'll move on to X, and that's which expressions are equivalent to this one right here. So move that one right over here. 10x plus 3 minus 4x minus 3. And make sure you do what we've learned about that identity property and then do your additive inverses to the both subtraction signs. And then you'll have to simplify A, B, C, and D to see which ones are equivalent. Then you're going to move on to Y, and that's another distributive property. Look at that subtraction sign, use your additive inverse. And then Z will be your last one. And Z is enter the value of T when the expression 48s plus T is equivalent to 8 times 6s minus 5. So what would T be? All right, let's go ahead and pause the video, and I'd like you to try one at a time. Pause now and do letter U. All right, this is negative 2 times 5d. A negative times a positive is a negative 10d. And negative 2 times positive 4 is a negative 8. So your answer is negative 10d plus negative 8. Go ahead and pause the video and try V. Pause now. All right. See how this 4 is in the front? Well, this is multiplication, and the commutative property says you can move things around. So you can actually move this 4 to the front, and that would be 4 times G plus H. Now over here we have 4, and we have G plus 7. So you can see, what is that H equivalent to? It is exactly the 7. So H is 7. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and try W now. All right, we're back, and here is the answer, 3x plus negative 9. And I did add this 1 right in front of here to help myself out. All right, now on to x. Try x, pause the video now. Okay, we are back. We have 6x plus 6 is your simplified answer for this one. So let's go into the choices and find which ones are equivalent. So it's pretty easy to see that D is definitely equivalent. Let's take a look at B. 14x, definitely not, because we need a 6x. But let's simplify this anyway. 14x plus 3 minus 3, or 3 plus a negative 3 would be 0. So that one's equal to 14x. That's no good. Let's look at A. This is 10x plus a negative 4x. Well, 10 plus negative 4, those are like terms, and so that's going to be a 6x, and 3 plus 3 is 6. So A is a good one. And this one down here, we have some subtraction signs, so we're going to use additive inverse and additive inverse. And 10x plus negative 4x is actually 6x, which is looking good. But 3 plus negative 3 is actually 0. So that is a no-go. Go ahead and pause the video and try y now. Okay, there you have it, negative 24t plus negative 18. So I did use the additive inverse inside before I started. And now finally for the last one, z. Pause the video. All right, so how to attack this problem to find out if these things are equivalent to each other? Well, down here you have the distributive property, which you've already learned. But we have a subtraction sign, so you're going to do the additive inverse to it. Then you're going to go 8 times 6s and 8 times negative 5. So 8 times 6s is actually 48s, and 8 times negative 5 is actually negative 40. We bring down the plus sign. Now, if you line these up, our answer was 48s plus negative 40. What do you think t is? It is negative 40. All right, remember, make sure you know all of these things for these notes, and you can always rewind and see things over again and ask questions.